Well, voting rights, hot button issue both nationally and here in the state of Connecticut this election year. And Connecticut's former Secretary of State, Miles Rappaport, has written a new book along with Washington Post columnist E.J. Dionne called 100% Democracy, The Case for Universal Voting. Miles and I, if you can believe it, both served in the state legislature together way back in 1984. Miles, nice to see you again.
Great to see you, Tom. You're looking well.
Thanks, Miles. So, to longtime pals like you and me, voting is like breathing, but that's not the case with everybody. You and EJ have an idea about how to change that.
Yes, we actually do. So, as you know, I've been working on issues of expanding voting rights and making our democracy more inclusive, for a good 35 years, since 1984 and when I served as Secretary of the State. But here we are 35 years later, and we still have lower turnout in the United States than most other industrialized countries. We had our record turnouts in 2018 for the midterms were 50%, and in 2020, 66.2%. Now, those are good by our standards, but they're not really good. So I started to say, well, what could really make a difference? And discovered that 26 countries around the world make it a requirement of citizenship for everybody to participate in the elections. And people like the system, it works, and they have 90% turnouts. And I think we could do that here.
So, Miles, compulsory voting is not a new idea. I know former President Obama floated the concept, which went nowhere. So why is compulsory voting so unpalatable to Americans?
Well, I think people have many people at least have an instinctive reaction, which is, please don't require me to do anything. But the truth is, we require people to serve on juries. We require people to pay taxes. We require people to make sure that their children are educated. So when there is a social good, which I believe a fully participatory democracy is, I think, a certain amount of requirement and civic obligation can easily pertain. And again, in Australia, they've done it for 100 years.
Yeah, I heard you and EJ talking about that in the book. Tell us how it works in Australia.
So in 1924, they enacted this. Their turnout immediately went from 60 to 90%. The government and political parties and civil society all make a huge effort to register people. 96% of the people are registered in Australia, and 91% of those people are voting. And what they do is, if you do not vote, they write you a letter, give you an opportunity to say, well, gee, why didn't you? If you have any response is pretty much accepted. But if you have no response, you'll end up with a $20 fine in Australian dollars, about $14 here. And very, very few people pay it. What's happened is that the culture has just become one where this is expected and people vote and they love it.
Yeah, and you said you had a story where you saw a bunch of surfer dudes going surfing, and then they come out of the surf and they go into the voting booth and they have a barbecue and go back to surfing after they vote. It's become almost a fun thing to do.
Absolutely. Elections are always on Saturday there. There's a lot of education that goes in place. Polling places are very convenient, and you're right. People went they were swimming and surfing in Sydney, came out of the water, cast their vote, went right back in the water, and they loved it.
So, Miles, now finally, if compulsory voting were to be adopted, it would likely start in the states, you said. I think we had a bill in 2021 here in Connecticut that didn't go anywhere. Is that where things are going to start?
I do think so. Senator Will Haskell put in the bill. We're very proud of him, EJ and I. But I think there will be, states are supposed to be the laboratories of democracy. I think some states and some municipalities will give this a try. And I would love to see Connecticut be one of the very, very first. We'll be talking about it on April 19th at the Old State House. And I hope people will join. And I hope this is something that will take root in our nutmeg state, the land of steady habits. But let's get out front on this one.
All right, there's a plug. Miles Rappaport, the name of the book is 100% Democracy, The Case for Universal Voting. As always, Miles, great to see you again. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Tom. See you soon.
Thanks. Next on Capitol Report, March Madness continues to make Connecticut Senator Chris Murphy extremely mad. More calls to reform college sports. Follow the bouncing ball. We get back. Don't go away.